Hello kids, welcome back. Last week, if you remember, we were learning about the birth of Jesus. Now, we learned that he wasn't born in a palace or a fancy hospital. He was born in a stable where the animals lived. And so we're going to continue with our story about the life of Jesus today, but before we do, I want to share with you a little story about my family and I. About 2 years ago, we moved back from China. We had lived there for 4 years in a very large city. And we had a wonderful experience living there. But even though it was a great experience, there were some difficult things that happened while we were there, just living in a foreign country. And one of those things was the language was different. The language was hard to learn, and also the language was very hard to read. In fact, I never learned how to read the Chinese characters. Their words were called characters, and they're like pictures, and there were thousands and thousands and thousands of these characters, and I did not know how to read them. And so you could imagine that this made finding places quite tricky when I was looking for a special place. And some of the places that I actually came to enjoy the most, some of the markets and some of the stores that I would like to go to, were actually places that were quite hidden. In fact, unless someone showed me where they were, I would never have guessed that they were there. One of those places was a favorite of my children. Now, we lived in an apartment complex with lots of tall apartment buildings. And there was one building that in their apartment, they had turned it into a play place. There was a trampoline, a ball pit, swing. It was just an amazing place, but it was all where a living room had once been. And I would never have guessed from the outside that that play place was in there. It was actually my friend who had to show me the exact location of this play place. So I'm going to pause there and we're going to pick up with the life of Jesus. Now, when Jesus was about 5 weeks old, his mother and father, Mary and Joseph, took him to Jerusalem to be dedicated at the temple. Now, this was something that the Israelites would all do with their firstborn sons. They would take them and an offering of 2 birds, either a pigeon or a dove. And so they took Jesus to Jerusalem to dedicate him. Now, in Jerusalem, there was a man named Simeon. Now, Simeon loved the Lord and he worshiped God. And he had been waiting and waiting for the Messiah, the Savior, the one that would rescue the world. And he was even told by God that he would not die before he had seen this Messiah. And so Simeon was led by the Spirit of God to go to the temple on the very day that Mary and Joseph were there with baby Jesus. And when he saw the baby, he knew that this was the Messiah. This was the one he had been waiting for and all of the Israelites had been waiting for hundreds and hundreds of years. And he held baby Jesus and he blessed him and he praised God. And he told Mary and Joseph amazing things, and they were in awe. And he also told Mary of some very difficult things that were to come later in Jesus' life. Now, there was also a woman, a prophetess named Anna at the temple that day. Now, she had been widowed. That means her husband had died a long time ago. She was 84 years old, and she had lived in the temple, stayed in the temple, and she prayed and worshiped God through prayer and fasting. And she also knew that the baby, Jesus, was the Messiah. So that leads me to the question, how did they know that baby Jesus was the Messiah, that he was the one that they had been waiting for? He probably looked like all the other babies that were coming to be dedicated, but how did they know? Well, they knew because God made it known to them. You see, Simeon and Anna loved God. They served God. They talked with God. They were ready. When God spoke, when God directed, they were ready to hear from God. So let me go back to my story about China. So like I said before, the place that we found, this play place, I probably would not have found it on my own. In many of these other places that I enjoyed going to, I would have walked right by. I needed someone to direct me, to guide me to those places. And just like Simeon and Anna, and for us, we need God to direct us, to guide us, to teach us, to show us how to live. And you know what? He does that. And we can get to know God more as we read our Bible, as we talk with God through prayer, and as we ask Him to lead us. He does. And you know, if we do those things, if we seek God, you know what? We are not going to be disappointed because God, He is at work all around us right now, right where you are. God is working. I don't know about you, but I do not want to miss what God is doing. And so that is my challenge for you. Let's ask God to lead us and let's spend time with Him so that when He speaks, we know that it's Him speaking and we obey. Now, last week I had asked you to start a book. I asked you to start a book about the life of Jesus. Now, I went ahead and I did mine. I got a little carried away. I got excited. So I got my paints out and I had fun. But I did a painting showing the manger or the manger down here in the stable, and also in the field, the shepherds. And I did the star showing the birth of Jesus. Now, I want you this week to do a picture or a painting that shows Jesus being brought to the temple. And I would include Simeon and Anna in your picture because they're important parts. And so that is your next assignment. And I would love to see pictures that you guys have done. So if you want to email a picture or send a picture, that would be a lot of fun to see. So next week, I look forward to learning more about the life of Jesus with you. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye for now. Goodbye.